Welcome back, everybody. Apologies for the technical difficulties. We are back. Audio should be up and running. As I was saying, it's extremely honored to be here on the Zach Starr Show. Myself, Zach Starr. Just the experience I've gotten over the last 3 years hosting my show, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show with Gavin Tony, has been an amazing experience. That is continuing. That is not going anywhere. But when it comes to the Zach Starr Show, we are here. We are ready to get rolling with it. So as I mentioned just a brief second ago, we have two exciting guests coming on. Today is just me, and the reason for that is because I want to give you an overview. I want to explain exactly what the purpose of this show is, why we're running it this way, and overall, it's going to be amazing. And the reason it's going to be amazing is because we're going to share experiences on this show that you usually don't see on other shows. Now, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we do have a ticker going with some entertainment news, some sports news, as well as the stock market, how it stands at the closing bell today here at 4 o'clock. But there's more than just that. We're not just talking business on this show. We're going to talk personal. We're going to get personal. We're going to be very open. We're going to talk about exactly all different facets of life. I personally have a lot of really exciting stories I'm going to share. For those that may or may not know, I've been coaching a couple of different baseball teams since the spring. That's a really exciting story I want to share. I say stories for a reason, many reasons. Number one is because it's not just an experience. It's something worth listening to. In my opinion, anyone out there that I've spoken with, whether it be the business world or anything else, it is really an experience worth sharing. And that's why I encourage anybody that's interested in joining the show to reach out, because the experience that you can get sharing your stories, you might not realize it, but by sharing the experiences you've been through, it really is something worthwhile for other people. More importantly, it is something that can inspire, even if you just inspire one person with your words, it really goes a long way. There have been times in my life where I've been inspired just by one person's words, actions, Instagram post, or whatever. And it really has been the opportunity of a lifetime to take those and run with it. So let's get started with it. What I want to do now is just give a little bit of an overview of how the show is going to work, as well as some potential guests in the future, as well as just a little bit about myself. So first things first, the point of this show, as I mentioned, is really just to be able to take different experiences, different stories from everything, excluding sports. We have a show for that. But all the other experiences we're going to talk about on the show. And so every single day, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the stock market for the day, any key business decisions, any key business actions that have went on. Some big news has happened today. We're going to start today with the Zach market check. And so specifically, we're going to check the big three composites, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. Dow losing 0.57% to end the day, S&P 0.67, NASDAQ 1.02, a little bit deeper than what our ticker has indicated. Stock market has fallen off substantially today. The Federal Reserve has been making some different announcements in regards to what decisions they're making as far as raising interest rates. I'm not going to give any specific advice today, but Treasury bonds are starting to look extremely good. And we're going to have a bunch of guests on the show that have familiarity with these type of assets, and we're going to discuss it with them. As we continue to dive in, I'm going to discuss a little bit more about myself, my background, and just overall the general feel for how this show is going to run. So as the show name, which is pretty much everywhere, my name is Zach Starr. There's a lot of things I have going on in my life that I'm not usually the most open about, but using this show, using this platform is going to be a really exciting time to be able to do this. Now, number one, I am a student. I am a sophomore in college, 19 years old, believe it or not. And in addition to that, I do run a few different companies. And so I do want to dive in a little bit to the first company, the main one that I am working on, called Wasser Innovations. This company, I founded a product called Next. The purpose of Next is to help people out there that are currently using high nicotine devices. It is a reduced levels of nicotine, ultimately all the way down to a 0 milligram, a completely nicotine-free product. And the reason that I started this company is because I saw a lot of friends, a lot of people out there that I know personally using the high nicotine vaping products. And so I figured there has to be a better way to do this. So that's my number one priority. That is what I work on a day-to-day basis. I've been running it for almost 3 years, have a team of 3, including myself. And overall, that's just given me a really good business sense. I have had tens of, if not hundreds of meetings with advisors, investors, and more just to learn a little bit about what exactly I have to do, how the business world works. In addition to that, I do have a consulting company by the name of ZL Star, and this is a consulting business that consults in business development, marketing, and sales. I work with many different companies out there in terms of developing their business models and more specifically their sales pipelines, actually doing cold calls for them. It's been really fun. And I started that during the pandemic, early in the pandemic, May of 2020 to be specific. And overall, I've had a couple of clients. It's been a really cool experience for myself, but also working with them. In addition to that, I do have a few other small projects that I work on. And as we go through the show, I'm going to share them. I do have a software company that I've started up that is working to help predict the success rate of different startups, specifically for investors to look at and analyze, something I've become very familiar with. So that's a little bit about my business side. Again, this show is not just for business. Some guests we come on are going to come on are businessmen, businesswomen. They're also investors. They work in venture capital. Some are CEOs of some of the largest companies in the world. Again, as I mentioned, our guest list is filled through October. So in addition to that, I do want to touch base on a little bit more specifically on some of the other work that I do, because one thing that I think is important, and I tell everybody this all the time, as a human being, you can't put all of your eggs in one basket when it comes to work, when it comes to interest, when it comes to anything, really. And I've learned this the hard way sometimes. I've met investors that I thought I'm very confident are going to invest in me, and I turned down other investor meetings. And I'll be honest, they really didn't go the way that I wanted them to. And so you learn the hard way that you can't put your eggs in one basket. So when it comes to business, that's one thing. What I'm going to do on this show a lot is I'm going to relate a lot of personal experiences and how I address those issues, kind of in a business sense as well, because the majority of things you do, if you operate like a business, you're going to be in a really good position. So specifically on the eggs in one basket, you don't want to do that when it comes to anything. You want to, one saying that I have is you got to do at least one thing a day that makes you smile. And when you have a lot of different interests and you do a lot of different things, chances are you're going to smile at least once a day. And I'll use my schedule from the spring as an example. Even now, honestly, it's pretty similar. But what I think is a really good skill is just having that ability to do multiple things in a day. For me, I go to school, I work on my companies, and I coach baseball. Those are three of the key things I do. And some days business isn't going to be fun. Some days you're going to have really frustrating calls, be it with employees, be it with potential clients, be it with different suppliers that you're trying to work with. And it's not always going to be fun. You're not always going to sit there and say, gee, I really love my job today. No, there's going to be days where it's not fun. There's going to be days where you're dragging yourself through the dirt. Like, why am I doing this? And as a startup CEO and anyone who's done anything in the entrepreneurial world, we understand that. There are days where it's the most exciting thing in the world. You're pitching your company to some of the top investors in the area, like I've done before, and I'll be doing in November. And there's going to be days where it's like, dang, I do not want to do this today. It is extremely stressful. The business model is not making sense. We're not going to make a profit this quarter. It's just so up and down. And that's how life is. Life is not about always being happy or always being sad. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, but it's also not always doom and gloom. And that's why, for me, if business isn't going well, I have baseball. If we win that day, pretty happy. Hanging out with the kids, it's a cool experience. It's a good break from everything else, and it makes you really happy when you do it. Now, there's some days where we could lose, and it's frustrating. The players aren't doing as well, or me as a coach, I'm having a bad day, which, believe it or not, as a coach, we do have bad days coaching. We make bad decisions, bad judgments, bad calls. So when it comes to some of the other things, specifically on whether it's working out in the gym or going to school, have a good day in school, bad day in school, it's really important. If there's any piece of advice I can give as I kick off this show, and really it's the foundation of what I believe in, it's about distributing who you are as a person among many things. You should have a priority. You should have a goal, number one. When you wake up in the morning, you should have a given purpose that you can tell people. And you can say, this is why I'm here on this earth. For me, I'm convinced I'm here to really, honestly, just enhance people's lives through my entrepreneurial drive. Specifically right now, I'm helping people by offering lower and nicotine-free options to current vaping products that exist because the industry messed up so bad, giving people an obnoxiously high amount. That's my purpose. I coach baseball. I'm a student. So it balances it out. And at my desk here, I'm not going to go into too much of the knickknacks I have here today, but this is a good representation of who I am as a person. And it's important to visualize this stuff so that you can constantly be aware of why you do what you do on a daily basis. And I have a lot of business things here, the World Trade Center, Statue of Liberty, Bryce Harper statue, and a baseball that my baseball team gave me last year as a gift after we went 12-0. And this is just an accurate representation, a reflection to myself of what I do and what I feel is me. Baseball, business, sport, it's everything. And so it's really important for anybody that wants to be happy in life, wants to have a successful life, to have balance. Because I'm going to tell you today, it's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be easy. There are going to be days where it's extremely excruciating, extremely frustrating, and days where you just don't even want to get out of bed. And I understand that because I've had that as much as anybody else has. It's important, too, to have perspective. There's times where your worst day, honestly, doesn't even touch the worst day of other people out there. And it's really important that every single decision we make, every single action that we take is looked at in a way that is like, I am so lucky to be here today. The fact that me personally, can sit at this desk and broadcast out to many concurrent viewers right now, honestly, as many as I've had in a long time with our talk shows, the fact that there are people listening to me right now talking about my experiences, sharing what I've done in my life so that I can encourage others, but also bring others on my show and talk about it, I'm blessed. And I think it's really important that on a daily basis, we remind ourselves of this. Again, it's all relative. Your worst day to you it's your worst day. And you shouldn't feel bad about it because someone else is having a worse day than you. But it means that you can appreciate it just a little bit more. It is a privilege to be able to work on my dreams. It is a privilege to work every single day on my companies. It's a privilege to be able to have a talk show, multiple talk shows, and be able to speak with people and connect with them on multiple different levels. And that is the purpose of this show, is to take life. When you tune into the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show, but when you tune in to the Zach Starr Show, you should drop all your other worries. When you're here with me, I'm dropping my worries when I'm here. I'm just relaxing. I get a chance to rock the suit. Of course, I'm going with the pinstripes today. Why not? When you're here, relax. Take everything that's going on in your life and just brush it off your shoulder. Because when you're here, it's about anew. It's about knowing why you're on this planet. It's about understanding your purpose. And it's about fully understanding exactly what you should do. I tell people this all the time when I give them advice. When people go to school, especially, and I ask them, what do you want to do with your life? I've been given the answer, I don't know. And frankly, there's probably some of you watching this that are like, yeah, I don't know. I don't expect you to have a fully detailed plan of what you want to do with your life. But at the same time, I think it's very important that you're able to have an understanding of it, a mission, a goal, a purpose. In business, in our quarterly reviews and our quarterly plans and projections, we include our mission statement. When you have a mission statement, you have a much more clear reason and much more clear drive to do what you want to do. And that's the central message. That is what's really important about life, having that clear image. And don't panic. That's another key that I have learned over the years. I have been under numerous situations where I could have panicked. I have been in investor meetings. Last year in Philadelphia, I was at the Union League at a presentation. I think only one other person that might be watching this show right now knows about this experience. And I had an investor with me, probably 5 inches nose to nose, pressing me on certain questions about my company that were very in-depth questions that for any investor, they know if the entrepreneur can answer this, then they know what they're talking about. And it was, I don't want to say it was a scary moment, but it was intimidating. For the first time in my life, I was pitching my company in person. I started my company during COVID and everything was Zoom. Press the link to join Zoom, share your screen. Can everybody see my screen? And then you ask like 5 or 6 more times. Oh, nope, I couldn't see it. And then you share it again. You got to repeat questions. This was the first time where I stood in a room with probably about 150 to 200 people, investors specifically for the most part. And I had to pitch my company. And when I pitched my company, I was pretty nervous. I'll tell you the story real quick before we move on to some more of the fun, exciting things on the Zach Starr Show coming up. But I was there. So we got there around 6 a.m. and booth was set up, getting pictures, meeting some of the different startups that were there. Really cool experience. We were one of two specific startups that were college-based, us at Westchester. And there was another one at Drexel, which was actually a really cool concept that they were working on. But I remember, so at the beginning of it, it's around 8 a.m. Investors are all starting to come in. We lined up on a podium. We'd walk up to the podium. We'd give our 30-second pitch, it's called, your elevator pitch essentially. And then you walk off the stage. And I've always been a pretty calm person. I don't tend to panic or freak out or anything like that. But again, I've never pitched my company in person. It's all been on Zoom. And I'm standing there. The video, my friend took a video of it, and I posted it a couple of times. And I'm standing there, and my heart's starting to beat fast. And I'm like, wait a minute, I do not get nervous ever. And the reason was I turned around. There's over 150 people in suits or pantsuits, and I'm just sitting there, or I'm standing there, and I'm about to go on stage. They're like, all right, now Wasp Renovations, come on up. And I get on the stage, and I'm looking out, and it was a pretty nerve-wracking moment for me. And once I got on that stage, I started speaking. I'm like, all right, I can do this. Starting to feel more confident. And I told my pitch, next is working to reduce nicotine used in the market. Our booth is over here. Look forward to seeing everybody and meeting with you. And then I gave my actual pitch in a separate room later, specifically for life science companies. And then went back. And then one more time on the day, we had to go back on the stage for the afternoon group and then pitch again, 30-second pitch, and then go off stage. And overall, it was an amazing experience. I'm going to do a specific show on that. A good friend of mine, Ryan, who I see is on here, we had a great day. It was a long day. I got up at 3:50 that morning to drive down to Philadelphia in the frigid temperatures of Philly in the winter. And it was a great experience, really fun day. And it was my first taste at actually pitching my company in front of real investors and being pressed and being asked certain questions on those topics. Like, hey, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do if this happens to the company? And it was something that really shaped me. It was something that really opened my eyes a little bit because I actually got that exposure for the first time. I wasn't just pitching behind a screen. And this year, we are going back to it. It's called the Angel Venture Fair in Philadelphia at the Union League. Jake, who I'll be having on Wednesday, will also be there pitching his company, Lectra. So I'm going to try to get some clips there when we're there presenting. I'm going to share them on the Zach Starr Show. We'll talk a little bit about that upcoming experience on Wednesday. But I do want to dive in a little more. I know we're getting some pretty cool comments here. I'll just run through them quickly for entertainment real quick. If a tree falls in the forest, nobody hears it. Does it really fall? Yeah, it does because it's on the ground and it wasn't. So I'll give you that. Would you rather fight a lion every year or a cat every day barehanded? I'd rather fight a cat every day barehanded. Take your small steps every day instead of taking big steps. And that's all we got right now. So waiting to hear some more interesting comments from all of you. And it's going to be just a fun experience. I'm looking forward to just interacting with my guests. It's going to be fun to sit here and do interviews. I'm going to try to do most shows with guests about an hour long and just talk to them about their experiences the same way I'm sharing some of mine right now. And overall, over just looking at different comments, it seems like everybody's having fun and we're interacting with tons of people and they're tuning into the show, which is just awesome. And we're over 5 platforms. We have YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as the second Facebook account. So if you're not subscribed to us, if you're not following us, please go ahead and do that. Instagram. If you follow us on Snapchat, we're going to have an abundance of different things going on in the coming weeks, including apparel drops. We are going to have some apparel. I do have a couple cool things coming. I have a mug, Zach Starr Show mug, as well as a sticker that will go on the back of my laptop here in the next few weeks. Another question that we have from Dean: what is the long-term economic impact of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? Well, the root of inflation, despite the fact that it does go deeper than the Ukraine and Russia tensions, it certainly has gotten accelerated during this time. There's a few reasons that inflation has gotten to the point that it is. I'll dive into that more on another episode. But specifically for Ukraine and Russia, of course, that conflict's been going on for a couple months. It's been a huge tragedy for anyone who's been keeping track of it. And the question is, what is the economic impact of it? Well, it's simple. Gas prices are going up because of an increased scarcity of it. Oil kicked up extremely high. Therefore, gas prices, we saw in Pennsylvania, gas hit $4.99 and has been on a steady decline all summer. But gas did hit as high as $4.99. I think it's like $4.09 in some areas of southeastern PA right now. So the economic impact is pretty simple to look at. When gas prices go up, transportation prices increase. Therefore, goods overall increase as well. So it should, if there wasn't as much free flow money rolling through from the government, it probably would start to cause a decrease in turning around and turning to pretty much be a decrease in demand, which would then lower prices naturally. And overall, it still has not caught up to it, but as prices continue to rise, it's going to be. So overall, Ukraine-Russia impact, the oil from Russia specifically has went up significantly in price, causing the United States and many other countries to turn to other nations for oil. Saudi Arabia is, of course, one of the most popular oil suppliers, as well as Venezuela. Because those places have higher demand, they also are going to kick those prices up as well. Another question here, more of a funny one. Are you a fan of sports? Funny enough, I used them throughout my camp years when I attended Arrowhead Day Camp in Westchester, PA. I did use them, and I got a Senate. Really love them. Never used it for spoon purposes, maybe for yogurt, but never used it for spoon purposes, always fork purposes. It's an interesting concept. Someone's making a lot of money on that patent, so credit to all of them. But overall, not the biggest fan. So keep those questions fueling in. I'm going to continue discussing here a little bit more background on myself. From the business sense, at least. And big thing that a lot of people are trying to understand, or for me, is kind of when I got into business and what really made me want to do business. And believe it or not, my first company I started officially was when I was in 5th grade. I was 14 years old, my 14th birthday, actually. And my dad and I were sitting in our office in our house. And I've always been a big travel fan. I loved cruises for my entire life. It's always something that I have been just a fan of, and I love cruises and vacations. And so I started a travel agency when I was 14, and it was never huge, never made monstrous sales on it, but it was enough to get me a strong business sense and a strong sort of essentially understanding business, filing taxes, and being able to do just a few other things. It's funny because at 14 years old, I'm filing taxes. I was using TurboTax. I can still pull up those files. I still use TurboTax, so hopefully they'll maybe pay us to advertise for them. But all jokes aside, and we'll get another question getting in just a second, but all jokes aside, I do feel that it's important to start early and just start something, start drawing something, start a business, just anything you can start, and then just learn how to do it later. There's a saying out there, I don't remember who said it, but it's essentially like if someone asks you to do something and you're not 100% sure you can do it, just say yes. You'll learn on the fly. You'll learn later. Of course, it's not. If you're severely underqualified for it, I don't recommend applying for a programming job when you don't know how to code. But if you have certain things that you think you're capable of and able to get done, I'm all for taking that big step. That's the difference, I think, between a lot of different people out there. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. You can get up early, you can get work done. But when it comes to certain things like running a business or starting a talk show or really a lot of things like that, it comes back to the basics of just starting, just initiating. The amount of people out there that just aren't able to initiate or don't know how to initiate. I mean, this is for you. I mean, just take that leap, take that jump. Want to start a business? Want to start investing? I mean, research it. Be confident in what exactly you're doing, but at the same time, just start something. Because I've had a lot of friends that know I'm more of a business head. I have a travel agency, of course, Next, and a few other things that are just awesome experiences. But people, they say to me like, hey, I want to start investing in real estate, or I want to start investing in stocks and bonds. I want to start a business. I want to do this. I want to start an LLC. I hear a lot of I want, not I'm doing. I'd rather you call me up and say, I started this. I don't know how to pay taxes on it. I mean, that's how you're going to learn. You're not going to learn how to do taxes by never starting. LLC, especially a C corporation, which is what my company is. That's a complicated tax structure. You got to file taxes quarterly. You have to predict how much money you're going to make to pay taxes. You got to file 1020s, notify the state, pay certain taxes if you're a Delaware corporation, which we are for certain shares that we hold. So there's a lot out there that I didn't know when I started my business. And when I hired my first 2 employees, I'll be honest with you, when I sat in that first meeting, which of course was on Zoom, which I wish it wasn't, but that's the life that we lived in back then. When I had that first meeting, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I wasn't running that meeting as well as I should have. If I'm being honest with you, I was getting talked over and it was just disorganized and it wasn't productive. And fast forward a little more than 2 years later, meetings are a lot more organized. I send out the agenda. We have everything taken care of. And I've really developed myself as a CEO. It's something that honestly you can't teach in school. I've learned a good amount in school. Don't get me wrong. And I feel that there is a place for formal education. But when it comes to certain communication skills, when it comes to the ability to inspire your employees, delegate tasks appropriately, and get things done in a quick and efficient manner, there are some things that experience trumps over. And again, formal education is one of them. I'm going to sit here and have, frankly, some contradictory views of how I feel about the formal education system. I feel that, it's a given. You should get a high school diploma, especially when you have a public school system. I'm aware that in many areas, the public school system isn't great. But for a lot of areas, for people I know that talk about their lives and trying to get ahead, they do have a very efficient and good public school system. So beyond that, it becomes a question of what do you want to do with your life? I've had conversations with people. I've contemplated myself whether or not I should go to college, or whether or not other people that I know should go to college, or community college, or state college, whatever it is. And the first question I always ask is, what do you want to do? And for as long as I hear, I don't know, I don't think it's worth it. If you go to community college and knock out your gen eds and save some money, sure. But until you know what you want to do, it's going to be really hard to get ahead. I think that everybody should know what they want to do to an extent by the age of 18. And if you think it's a tall ask, I've seen a lot of other things that 18-year-olds are capable of doing. Trust me. You can figure out what you want to do with your life. And that's going to change. It should change. If it doesn't change, you're not evolving. A few years ago, I wanted to stay a CEO my whole life. And don't get me wrong, I love doing it. But my end goal is to be an investor, a venture capitalist, start my own VC firm, invest in other companies, use my wisdom, my advice, my experience to fund them, nurture them, and help them succeed. That might change again. But the path that I want to go on stays the same. Get the experience, educate yourself in the economics and finance of the world, accounting as well, and use that to be able to transfer into what you need. I think that what is really important is experience and theory. I think that there's an appropriate place for both. Economics especially is a lot of theory. And until you learn the practicalities of how that theory works, it's very hard to implicate it. An economics degree by itself doesn't impress me. It frankly shouldn't impress anybody. It's everything in between on your resume. There's another company I have called U Capital. And what this company does is we work with young people, preferably ages 16 to 25. We look at your resume. We see if you have a LinkedIn presence, if any, your personal portfolio, and your interview skills. We help fine-tune those. We work with you. We find potential employers. We have a group of companies that we email monthly newsletters to in the Philadelphia area saying, hey, these are the people we worked with this month. Here's their resumes. Here's what they have to show for it. Take a look at it, and you go from there. And it all comes back to knowing what you want to do. Until you know what you want to do, it's very difficult to be able to have a key path. Again, I got a question. I'm going to relate this to a question that I got earlier. A question that I got earlier was, would you rather fight a cat once a day, barehanded, or fight a lion once a year? As stupid as that question is, 19-year-olds are going to be 19-year-olds, right? So I answered that question. I said, I'd rather fight a cat barehanded. Here's how it's relevant to this conversation. Don't try to take every step at once. Don't try to leap to being, for my example, the syndicate at a venture capital firm. Don't try to do that. Try to start small. Start your first company. Start your first fund. Make your first investment. Make your first board. Make your first exit. Those are all little steps. And the great thing about it is there are so many different types of little steps you can use towards your end goal. If I decided to change paths and I wanted to be an accountant, the degree pretty much stays the same. The experience I've gotten pretty much stays the same. It's just changing that end goal. So once you determine your end goal, it doesn't have to just be career, by the way. There are a lot more things important than just a job and just money. But those are certainly part of it, and they certainly sure as heck help. But what I see as important is that you have to be willing to, and you have to be able to commit to something. I want to be this. I want to be that. When you can decide what you want to do, it really, really helps. Got a very active comment section. Just reading through some of these. I'm going line all day. All right, you do it. And not much else relevant there in terms of the comment section. But thank you for the contributions. Please keep doing it. It keeps the show very light and very entertaining. We are going to break for an ad in just a second. But I do have to say before that, in regards to the future, really figure out what you want to do. Figure out why you're here. Figure out your mission, and that will unlock the doors to everywhere you go. Coming up after this, I'm going to talk a little more about myself, specifically my health. I know it's something that everyone's been interested in. I want to just be transparent and talk about specifically what I do on a day-to-day basis in terms of diet, nutrition, exercise. It's going to be really fun, so make sure you stay tuned.
What's up, everyone? Make sure you join the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show weekdays on Facebook and YouTube to hear about all there is in the sports world. Celebrating their third year, Zach Starr and Gavin Tony break down all the controversial topics from who is the real GOAT of the NBA to if the Phillies will ever make a buzz again.
Welcome back here on the Zach Starr Show. I'm your host, Zach Starr. It's been a really fun and exciting show so far. A lot of really good engagement from all of you. I really appreciate it. Again, we're live on 2 different Facebook accounts today, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. If you have not had a chance to check out the Teespring, go to our YouTube page. There is a link there for the Teespring. A lot of really cool apparel. I'll start showing it off a little bit as I start to get out of the suits a little bit throughout some of our shows. But now I do want to touch a little bit more as we continue to talk about myself and some of my experiences. I do want to touch on my health a little bit. Not to say anything seriously wrong with myself, but I really want to explain a little bit more about what I do on a day-to-day basis in terms of just health and fitness. I'm just checking my phone here for some of the stock news. I'll report on some of that in just a little bit. But what I want to talk about more is, let's start with what I've done for my health. So for those of you that may or may not know, I have been relatively strict in my diet for the majority of my teenage years, actually pretty much all my teenage years. I started a new health plan. I don't like calling it a diet, but it's more of a health plan that I started in June of 2016, June 13th, 2016. It was a Monday. It was the week after the last day of 7th grade. And I was 5'7", over 200 pounds. And I will have to find some picture. I'm sure someone's got a picture out there that they can pull up. But I'll find a picture of myself from when I was younger, because the transformation's been, not to try to show off or anything, but for the realistic terms as far as what transitioning your health might look like, it really has been a big change and a big difference. And so I essentially was, for months, I think this dates back to March of that year, I had been like, all right, I'm ready to start a diet. I'm ready to change. For anyone out there who's experienced trying to lose weight or commit to anything like that, you get really excited, really amped up. You get all the food, you get ready, you got the meal plan, you got everything listed, ready to go. Some people use MyFitnessPal, something I went through when I was younger trying to lose weight. And then Monday comes, and that chocolate cake looks really good. And that True Moo in the fridge tastes really good. And you break your diet. And that for me was a pretty vicious cycle that I went through for probably a year, 6th and 7th grade. And during that time, it was really just a lot of trying to diet, and then followed up by a lot of overeating. And that ultimately led to the most weight gain I've ever had. I gained over 20 pounds between February of 2016 and June of 2016. But in March of that year, I found the diet that I ultimately stuck with. And I bought the book. I bought it on my phone. And I read through it in like a day. Like, I'm sure you guys have had that experience where you have a book that you just can't put down. And I'm just learning all this cool information. So fast forward to April, I tried to get on the diet. I was so excited. And this cookies looked really good, I guess. I don't remember what I cheated with. But I broke that diet. It was an up and down from there. I tried again in May. Finally, in June, I put my foot down, and I'm like, all right. So it wasn't just a one and done. For those of you that might be wondering, I didn't just start my diet and then I was perfect. I was actually just going in and out of a loop of trying to start a diet, and it's really emotionally draining. So once school let out, I'm like, all right, because there's a lot of stress on starting a diet, a meal plan, whatever you want to call it. And once school got out, I'm like, all right, I got 2 weeks before camp starts, and there's a picture of my brother and I'm getting on the bus the first day of camp, and I have a double chin, like smiling there with my big red Phillies hat on. And I look back, I'm like, holy crap, you're fat. And I'm not going to sit here and fat shame anybody. That's not what you should do. You should encourage good health, but you by no means should shame anybody. And that's not what I'm doing when I'm making fun of myself. Essentially, I'm kind of explaining the mental process that someone goes through when they're evolving on their health. Comment section's blowing up. Let's see what's going on. All right, so we'll go through some of those comments here in just a couple minutes. But overall, I started it in June, and the whole summer was flawless for me. And from June to September, perfect. And I went from 202.6 pounds to 160. I lost 42.6 pounds in a 14 or 16 week area, and got back first to 8th grade. I was like, wow, you lost so much weight and all this stuff. And it's a good feeling. There's a line from a really good song that I love, when the work you put in is realized. And that's just a really good line. because it's not about showing it off or anything. And I do post on Instagram once a year to commemorate that anniversary because it's an achievement I'm proud of. But at the end of the day, you want to stay humble with that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like, all right, well, it's a pretty big accomplishment. Now, I am going to tell you all, like a good amount of people on here, I'm going to tell you all a story that I don't think I've told before. Now, truth be told, I have not been 100% perfect on my diet from June of 2016 to now. I did break my diet back in September of 2016. It was Labor Day. And for anyone out there who's been on a diet or has broken their diet, they understand why my memory is so sharp on this. I do remember exactly what I first ate after probably 3 months of perfect dieting. It was one of those like the flat pretzels with like the caramel and the chocolate drizzle on top. It was Labor Day. We hosted people here, and I broke my diet and overate that night. And when you go from eating no sugar pretty much for 3-4 months straight to eating probably 100 grams of it in a night, I crashed. Blood sugar got really high, dipped down pretty deep, and I don't remember how long I slept that night, but after that, it was a pretty rocky road for a few months actually, from Labor Day of 2016 to February of 2017. So it was a good amount of time. I was struggling to get back on the train, falling off the wagon, as you may hear it heard in the health world. And that's a story I don't really share much. So there's the beginning of me being pretty open on this show and being comfortable sharing that all with you. Is that, truth be told, I was not perfect on my diet since June. I actually broke it in September, and it took me about 5 months to get back on the train, which was President's Day of 2017. I started my diet back up. I think I gained 20-ish pounds, but 30 pounds. I was like 190, and I gained like 30-ish pounds back. So I put a good amount back on. And by May of that year, I was able to get back to around where I wanted to be, around 165, 160. And at that point, you can see pictures of me. I was pretty skinny there, even more than I do now. And that was the most dialed I'd ever been on my diet. I was getting up early. I was doing a whole bunch of things. And at that point, I was trying to start a drone company, which is another story for another day. But from February of 2017 to now, August of 2022, I've been near perfect on my diet. Now, I don't want to just exactly act like it's been pure perfection where I'm tracking every single food I eat. I'm a believer in consistency, not extremism. And I'll give a good example of that. When I go to a restaurant, and when you usually go to a restaurant with a health nut, they order, I don't know, salad, or they order something, and then they make about 10 modifications to it. Hold the sauce, do this, do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And frankly, a lot of the time we're better off without some of those accessories. For me, though, I believe I'm so consistent over the last 5-6 years in my health plan that I don't go extreme when I'm at a restaurant. I enjoy myself. I've been on 5 cruises, and I've stuck to my plan the whole time. Haven't touched any sugar, gluten, any processed foods. I've eaten meat that's not grass-fed. I've had sauces that probably have some flour in it. I've had some drinks that have probably had some sugar in it, but I haven't eaten chocolate cake or I haven't eaten anything like that. Now, the question comes back to, okay, I'm sitting here saying I haven't touched any of this in 5 years, but you're saying not to be extreme. It's just how I've become wired. It's not, if I were to give people suggestions for starting a health plan, if they're trying to lose weight, if they're trying to heal acne, which is one of the reasons that I've been dialed into my health, or really any of the other reasons that arguably a low inflammation-based diet can fix. I'm not going to sit here and expect anybody to do what I've done. And it's not to say I'm better than you. It's just that's how I function. To me, I need to stay away from that stuff completely. I'm not going to trust myself to have one bite of cake or something like that. And I'm willing to be open about that. And you can call it what you will. But for me personally, I'm willing to admit out loud that I'm not capable of that. But now I've gotten to a point where I'm so wired to it, it doesn't even faze me. People are like, oh, look at this cookie or this M&M or all that great stuff. Don't get me wrong. I tell people all the time when they say, oh, this tastes so good. I'm like, I was fat at one point. I know what fried Oreos taste like. I know fried Twinkies. I know funnel cake. I know cotton candy. Those are all my favorite foods from the carnival. Truth be told, I've eaten all that. I've enjoyed it. It was fun. I have a very healthy relationship with food. I don't look at it like, inflammation or whatever. I just know what I want to eat. I like eating grass-fed steak and meat and healthier things that I see as better options. So the bottom line with my health story is that it was never perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It's never a straight line. If you're losing weight, one day you're 190, could be 182, then 188 the next day, could be 187 the next day, back up to 189 the day after that. Things are going to fluctuate. But at the end of the day, it's about consistency. It's about doing something over and over again that you can do constantly. If you limit yourself to 1,200 calories and you track it on MyFitnessPal, you're not going to be sustainable. If I can find a person out there that has done it, bravo. I hope you accomplish your health goals. I hope you're healthy. And I hope you have a good relationship with food. For the rest of us, it's very unsustainable. For me, I try to keep my snacking to a minimum, but I don't feel like a failure when I do. I don't feel like, oh, I overate or this or that. There's times where I like to eat less, ideally, if I'm in a cut versus a bulk or just trying to kind of keep my weight around the same, which I do still play around with it, despite the fact that I've been on the same plan for such a long time. It's important to be consistent, and that goes for literally any facet of your life. And that's why I like this show, because it's not just business. I know it looks like Wolf of Wall Street business. I know it could be any of those things. And I got 15 comments. I'll check those in a minute for anyone who's commenting. But when it comes to everything in your life, sustainability and consistency is key. I'd rather you work 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, than 12 hours a day, 3 days a week. It's not sustainable. Don't set yourself to expectations and standards you know you can't fulfill. Set yourself high. I set my bar very high. And a lot of the time, I don't reach it. Every quarter, every season, and I have one friend that I do text this to. On my whiteboard, I have a list of goals. Where do I want my weight to be? Where do I want my body fat percentage to be? Where do I want my companies to be? How much money do I want to make from certain jobs? And my last one, my summer goals, I hit on probably 70% of them. That's still 30% failure, and that's okay. The problem is people tell you, oh, failure is okay, but why? I'm not going to just tell you cliche quotes on this show. That's not what I'm about. I'm going to sit here and give you the time of day you deserve to be explained why things work. The reason failure is good for 2 reasons. Number one, you had the confidence to do it. You were the initiator. Going back to what we said earlier in the show, you were an initiator. But number 2, you're going to learn something from that. And so when I started my drone company and I started my video game development company and personal programming company, all companies that I no longer work on, I would sit here and say that they are failures. They didn't succeed. Therefore, they failed. At the end of the day, I learned a lot from running those companies. That has allowed me to bring it over to Wasser Innovations and bring it over to Next. And that is really important for me. It's really important for anyone. It's consistency that matters. And you're not always going to accomplish your goals. But at the same time, if you don't initiate and you don't strive for it, you're not going to accomplish it. It's very important. And coming up after this, we are going to continue with my conversation more about the side of mental health, keeping yourself in check, knowing when you're not okay. And then we'll wrap up today's show with a conclusion with the upcoming guests that we have coming up, as well as some other ways to listen into our content, as well as share it and see some of the other awesome things the Zach Starr Show is providing. Stay tuned.
Are you an employer struggling to find good employees that stick for the long term? If so, U Capital is for you. Not only do we work with numerous employees to shape their resumes and fine-tune their skills, but we show them off in our monthly newsletter. If you want to be in the know for the best employees in the area, sign up to learn more at ucapital.co and head over to the business section. We look forward to helping connect you with the best employees in the area.
So as I mentioned before, U Capital is a company I recently started. If you're a company out there that is looking to get a newsletter of some of the best employee prospects in the area, let us know. ucapital.co. Go to the business section. Reach out to us, Zach@zlstar.com. That also goes for potential guests on the show. Let's talk about it. Told a lot of stories so far today, and I'm going to continue with mental health. This is something that, in my opinion, is just not, I'm not going to say it's not talked about, because it's talked about plenty. People are always talking about mental health. The problem is they're not talking about it in the right way. Mental health is a serious thing in this country, in this world, and you can attribute it to so many things. When it comes to certain things such as depression, of course, you can tie that back to suicide. That's a serious mental health crisis. And what's really important for anyone, I want to focus specifically on the mental health of setting goals and sticking to them, or more specifically, getting out of a rut. Now, the life ebbs and flows. It's never going to be perfect. I touched on this earlier. I said, look, nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be fun. Honestly, life goes like this. There are good days. There are bad days. There is good in bad days, and there is bad in good days. Believe me. When it comes to keeping your mental health in check, it's important to have purpose. I spoke a lot about purpose and goals and aspirations earlier in the show. When it comes to getting yourself out of a rut, there's nothing more impressive to me than when you dig yourself out of it. Not everyone has a friend that they can text, hey, I'm not feeling the best today. I need a boost. I need someone there for me. Not everybody has that. And that's a reality we have to face. Ideally, everyone should have a friend they should feel comfortable with when it comes to things like that. I've had people tell me personally, I'm not going to out them, but I've been told, hey, I'm not feeling the best today. Or I've been in a rut lately. And I felt the same way. Is it the same thing as clinical depression? I mean, it can lead sometimes to it. But most of the time, a rut is a temporary thing that results from, honestly, a lot of overthinking and just lack of desire, lack of being able to fight and work towards achieving certain goals. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not someone that is giving recommendations on this, but I'll tell you my stories. When I feel down for multiple days in a row for really no reason, really, or you're starting to, I mean, a lot of it comes back to overthinking about my companies. What if this happens? What if that happens? Regulations got tighter, this and that. And I've been in ruts before. A lot of the time it happens in the winter. It's cold. It's getting dark early. I think a lot of people in the winter start to get SAD, seasonal affection disorder, and lack of sunlight, things like that can attribute to that, being inside more. It's a reality. It's a real thing a lot of people experience. And the best way to get out of that is by setting goals and not just saying that, oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the new year. I'm going to quit smoking in the new year. I'm going to start a new business in the new year. I'm going to go out and be more social in the new year. I think it's really important to plan. And I do have this document I've used personally, and this is going to take me into another story. Hopefully we don't run out of time. But what I do once a quarter, in addition to writing my goals on a whiteboard that is sitting at my desk, and if you're ever visiting my office, I'm more than happy to show it to you. I write down my life plan every 4 months. Every 3 months I do it. And it's called The Plan. I wrote it myself. And it gives you a whole bunch of different things to look at. It gives you your 30-day, 60-day, 90-day action plan. It starts with your 20-year plan, dials back to 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, a year. You get the point. It's a really good way of visualizing what you want. And then you don't have to download a fancy document to do it. If I were you, I'd sit down right now. 10-year plan, where do I want to be? 5-year plan, where do I want to be? 3-year plan, where do I want to be? And 1-year plan, just a sentence. I want to run a business. I want to graduate school. And then you break it down into months. What can I do to get there? And then all of a sudden, you break it down into goals, and then you can run them down. And you can begin to go out and execute them and put it together. And you learn doing that. Other times I'm in a rut. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I set my alarm for 4:30. As a matter of fact, today I woke up at 4:30. Start of the school year, that's the time I wake up. It's 4:30 a.m. I go to the gym early. I work out. I have goals to plan. It's very hard to fall into a trap when you're being productive and you're doing things that make you smile. Again, it's not always going to be perfect. The gym can suck sometimes. I haven't talked much about the gym today yet. I lift about 5 days a week, but the gym can suck sometimes. It can be a big drag, and it can not make you smile. It can make you mad some days. I've been ticked off in the gym, and well, yes, James, that's because you were going to bed at 4:30, not waking up. But just on a YouTube comment, folks saying he was awake at 4:30 today as well. But when it comes to being able to keep yourself satisfied or happy, it is important and crucial to have variety. So you can avoid a rut, or at least in a way pull yourself. I don't think it's about avoiding it. Honestly, I misspoke. I think it's about getting yourself out of a rut quicker. What can you do to get yourself out quicker? Have hobbies, find jobs, find cool things to do. It's impossible to stay in a rut when you got 13-year-olds asking you silly questions all the time at baseball. I mean, it's fun with them. And when I have good days in the work world, if I have a really good investor pitch or a really good close on a deal for one of my other companies, it's a good feeling. Some days it's bad, but at the end of the day, by having sustainability, by constantly working to be able to make these things work, I think it's crucial in order to keep yourself out of a rut. So that's really that's my 10 cents when it comes to ruts, things like that, mental health, physical health, personal health. For those that are interested, I do feel that my diet it's a pretty good program. It's pretty scientifically backed. It's called the paleo diet. If you're interested, I know I haven't spoken too much about that. Essentially what it is it's removing added sugars, which every diet agrees on, but it also removes grain, which I know is a little controversial, gluten-free specifically, which gluten, if you don't know, is the protein in a lot of like wheat and a lot of different barley and different types of grains. Gluten, especially the way it was cultivated in the United States, is really inflammatory. So at the end of the day, when it comes to your health, and again, I'll touch on my health a good amount on the show, I think that it's crucial to avoid inflammation. I think that it's really important that inflammation is under control, and it ties back to so many other health issues. And I think that's a really key component to a healthy and balanced lifestyle. A little bit here and there is not going to kill you. And if that's what is going to, if having a cheat a week or a month or whatever, if that is something that's going to help you stay sustainable, I'd rather you cheat once a month than never start your diet at all or health plan and be healthy. I'd rather you be 90%, 80% than 30% or not healthy at all. I think it's so important for everybody to be able to focus on doing that. And that's what life is. Life's not about being 100% all the time. It's about the 70% days, the 60% days, the 80% days. You're going to have days where it's going to really suck. And I just think it's okay. I'm here to tell you that it's okay. I'm not sure if my voice is going to really have much gravity to you, at least yet, as we go through these episodes and the show continues to grow. Maybe the credit and ability will grow. But for now, I can assure you, I mean, nothing's going to be perfect. Don't strive to be perfect. Strive to be close to perfect. Strive to get as close to perfect as possible. But just acknowledge you're not going to achieve it. Stay relaxed, nice and easy. Don't tense up. Don't yell. Don't fight. It's not worth it. It's not necessary. You have 86,400 seconds in a day. Make every second worth it. And you're going to be tired. You're going to be just not motivated some days. But one thing I say, I'm not going to judge you on the days you feel. If you feel motivated, you can probably stick to your diet for a day, probably a killer gym session, have a really good business meeting, but good work sprint. It's the days that the days you least feel like doing something are the days that you're tested on. If you can still be productive on the days you feel like crap, welcome to the club. That's how you become successful. We have a few more things we want to go over. I am going to read. I think there's an interesting comment. Best tasting trees. I'm not going to suggest eating a tree. I'm going to interpret that as the best wood to smoke when you're making brisket or making chicken or whatever you make on a smoker. Definitely go cherry. Cherry's got to be one. And James said that, although I hope he's not eating it. And oak's number 2. And I can't think of any others. There's a few. Maple is not really used, but there are some that have it. So something interesting to keep a note on. One thing too, I'm an avid cooker. I'm a chef to myself, at least, as part of starting my health plan. I do cook probably 5 or 6 days a week, lunch and dinner for the most part. I don't eat breakfast. I have a coffee concoction in the morning with butter in it. I'll cover that another time because I know that's going to be at least a 15 or 20 minute explanation of why I put butter in my coffee, which I've been doing for almost 7 years. But I as someone that cooks, it's a meditating practice. It's relaxing. And it slows down your day. So just having the moral of today as I talk about myself, because this is probably the last time for a while I'll be talking about just myself and not interviewing other people. It's important to have eggs in multiple baskets. We started today talking about eggs in one basket. Don't put them all in one basket. It's not necessary. And so it's crucial to be able to just do that. It's really important to be a variety. And if you can have variety in your life, and I'll tell you why it's even more fun. And this is another story. the amount of random conversations I might have throughout a day is actually really kind of interesting because honestly, I can go from talking baseball to the stock market in a 3-second turn. That's how you want to be. I'm really just trying to share my experience. If you're someone that has things interesting to talk about, people will like you. As someone that hires people, as someone that works with different employees in different companies, you got to be interesting. My chief medical officer and myself, by the end of our phone calls, after talking about the different chemical processes and everything that we're working on that goes into next, we always talk football. Always. And it's always a blast to talk about that. And sports betting, which I don't do, and I'm not going to endorse it, but I know a lot of people do it. It seems pretty fun. But, I mean, it's important. It's really important to have variety. You don't want to be a one-trick pony. You don't want to be – and this is anyone that's looking for a job, you don't want to have only one thing to talk about, whether it's football. If you're a football player, only talking about football, or your major, or your job. You want to have things other than that. And this is why I like coaching baseball. I'm paid to coach baseball. Sometimes there are some volunteer opportunities that I do take advantage of, but it is a paid job. But when I'm there, it doesn't feel like a job to me. Not that it's not a big deal or anything like that, but because when I'm working, that's work. And I love what I do for work. U Capital, Nets, Platinum Star Travel, all the things I do for work. But that's work. That's business. That is me in a work mode, talking with people, negotiating, working with them. When I go and coach baseball, that's just relaxing. It's just enjoyable. It's stressful. I mess up at times. Players mess up at times, and you want to get on them about it. But it's also, relatively speaking, very relaxing for me. And when I talk to parents, they're off work. They're relaxed. They're talking about baseball. If I didn't have that skill set to talk about it with them and I only had work or something, you don't want to be around that guy. Reading some more comments. Get to some extra few good comments coming up. But bottom line with that, really work on yourself as far as having multiple things to talk about, being interested in. I think it's crucial. And that's just the key to success. So we are going to keep going because we have some really good questions coming up. So coming up right after this quick ad, we are going to touch base on a few more of those questions before we wrap up today's show. It's been great so far. We appreciate you all for staying around.
Do you need help with business development, marketing, and sales? If so, ZL Star is for you. At ZL Star, we have in-house CEOs with expertise in these categories. Head over to zlstar.com.
Welcome back to the Zach Starr Show. I'm your host, Zach Starr. We've had a really, really fun time so far, and we have some really good questions, surprisingly for the most part appropriate. So are trees bad for me to eat? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend eating trees. It is wood, splinters. Lumber is really good for building things like houses and building or burning a fire. Not for eating. For smoking, yeah, it's pretty cool. If you're throwing on a bonfire, go at it. Eating, not so much. In terms of your health, my guess is that trees contain certain fibers and proteins that are just indigestible. So it would just pass right through you. So there's no nutritious benefit to it. I'm talking in a relatively serious tone, although I know these are not serious questions. So take it with it what you want. Here's a good question. I'm actually really excited to talk about seed oils. Seed oils are possibly the worst thing that you could put in your body. And I'm including sugar. Now, what are seed oils? Well, seed oils specifically are canola oil, rapeseed oil, safflower oil, sunflower seed oil, and I'll include soy in there as well as an oil. Not things that are not included are avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil. Those are 3 oils I actually do use. Seed oils are not great for you for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're severely genetically modified. The DNA is unrecognizable by your body. Number 2 is that they're heavily sprayed with pesticides, which is no bueno. You do not want pesticides in your oils. To extract it, it's a really hard process. It's very taxing on the environment to extract the canola or the rapeseed oil and things like that. And finally, the omega-6 oils. If you heard omega-3s, there's also omega-6s. That oxidizes extremely easily, which can really cause damage to your body. Now, here's something I'm going to touch on quickly as we get some more comments. So when it comes to seed oils and oxidation, what happens in the artery specifically, what we've been told is that saturated fats and eating dietary cholesterol clogs your arteries with cholesterol. While the second part is true, cholesterol is what is present when you do get your arteries clogged. The truth is that the reason that the cholesterol goes there is to heal that area. When you eat inflammatory foods like sugar, seed oils, omega-6s in a high quantity, because you do need some omega-6s, but you need to balance it with omega-3, which is found in macadamia nuts and steak and other sorts of meat and fish especially. But when it comes to oxidate or damage of your artery, your body sends cholesterol to the area to heal it. Cholesterol is essential for healing your body. It's essential for testosterone and estrogen development for your hormones. It's essential to your body. If you don't eat it, your body's just going to make it. So when you have damage to your arteries over and over, and it gets that fat gets oxidized from the omega-6 that you consume, that ultimately causes artery clogging. So seed oils, not a fan of it. Shouldn't cook with it. If you're going to cook, use coconut oil, olive oil, butter. Those are all safer options to use. So does ZL Star eat trees? No. How can I apply for a job at ZL Star? You can email me, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at zlstar.com. Subject, just put whatever job, whatever your skills are. If you have a resume, something like that, send it over, and our team will take a look at it and see if that's something worthwhile. Zach smokes trees. No, I'm referring to smoking the wood in order to cook the food. Something that's really cool as well. Let's see. So, no, you don't want to eat trees and seeds. But that's just, again, we're going to have some really cool shows. You never know where it's going to take you. I started the show to give you some background on myself, but you never really know where these shows are going to take you. So I'm really excited that we're getting some awesome questions on health. I'm really excited to see that we're able to have a really good dialogue today, have a really good conversation on it. Best recommendations for people that are just looking to start a health plan. I'm going to say it, goals. I've been saying it all show, and I'm going to say it all the time. So I think it's really crucial that you have to set goals. If you don't set goals for yourself, you're not going to be able to accomplish something. I think that what's important is the goals when it comes. And when I refer to, I've said goals probably 30 times last minute because it's so important. What are your goals? I want to start a diet. All right, what are your goals? I want to lose 20 pounds. All right, let's look at the science behind losing weight. Let's lower the inflammation. Let's get that taken care of. I want to switch my diet up. My skin's pretty greasy. I want to decrease the excess sebum production, which creates acne and all those great things like that on the skin. That is something that you have as a goal. That is my purpose. I want to be able to run a 5K. Well, what kind of diet do you need to support that? At the end of the day, you need to have goals on those things. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to accomplish what you want. Next question. Who is your first guest? Jake Henry. He is a student at Westchester. He also runs his own company called Electro Tape. They are a company that is working on increasing or speeding up athletic performance. So he'll be on Wednesday. Not 100% sure what time that will be, probably around 4 o'clock. And then on Friday, we have on Zave Smith, who is the CEO and founder of Xbound. That is a company that is like Indeed for people that are older, in their 40s and older, to find jobs. They have the experience already, just trying to get them connected with a bunch of different people out there. Again, if you're interested in being a guest on our show, you can just comment directly and I'll reach out to you if I have your contact info, or email us at Zach, Z-A-C-H, at ZLStar, that's 2 R's.com, and we can talk to you. We are currently scheduled through October, but if we can get you on, you have some interesting topics, I'd love to talk to you. We are live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will be doing a special show for September 11th in a couple of weeks. That will be our only non-regular hour show. And for those of you that have continued watching, we appreciate it. All love as we've gotten started here on the first show. I will give it a few more minutes to see if we can roll in some more questions here from some of our awesome viewers. Just to break down where some of our viewers are coming from today, I want to give some appreciation to all of you. Number one, on Facebook. Facebook, thank you so much for watching today. It's much appreciated. Stay tuned to continue learning more about when the show is going live, as well as watching it on there. Twitch, thank you so much for watching today. It's first time using Twitch, actually. I'm so excited to continue to use one of the most popular streaming platforms out there. And YouTube and Twitter, both of you, thank you so much. It's been a really big success today so far. I look forward to continuing with it. All right, next question is favorite movie. Thank you to Connor Martin for putting it up. We will put it up there briefly to show where the comments are coming from for those who aren't on YouTube. It's a good question, and I have a couple answers for that. I will give different categories. In terms of comedy, I'd say my favorite movie is Grown Ups, the original one with Adam Sandler. And in terms of business and finance, there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good movies. There is The Big Short, there is Moneyball, and there's The Wolf of Wall Street, which I'm pretty much dressed like today with the pinstripes. I'm going to go with The Big Short because you have to have some pretty significant economic knowledge, I think, to fully understand the movie. They do a really good job of explaining it, but I do feel that it is a movie that needs to be looked at for just overall intelligence, and just the precision the movie has is a really good job. It's a great acting job. It's a really good application of different things. So Wall Street, I see, is a popular one. Oh yes, the Money Never Sleeps movie. That's also a really good movie with Gordon Gekko. That's a really good movie. Mount Rushmore of seed oils. How about I do a Mount Rushmore of oils I would cook with? Since considering that Mount Rushmore is the people commenting that, I would do that next because that's actually pretty funny. Mount Rushmore of seed oils, I would have to say, cooking oils that I use. Number one is butter or ghee, which is a clarified butter. Butter is a lower temperature stable. Ghee is more suitable for higher temperature frying. So butter and ghee are my first two. Third one to go is coconut oil. It's really good for cooking. It's a high temperature one. And my fourth one is palm oil. It's not the best for the environment, but it is a very similar fat profile to coconut oil. High heat sustainable. I like olive oil and avocado oil too, but those are better for dressings and low temperature cooking or sauteing, not necessarily the high temperature steak cooking that I do or some other things. But I do use avocado oil a lot. I'll throw some butter in there, throw a nice ribeye on there, season it, get the crust nice and built, and then, of course, give it a good slice. So Mount Rushmore of people commenting. I don't know. I'm going to give Connor the number one spot. Connor Martin has been a very good guest, asking some really good questions today. I'll give Dean, no, I'll give James the number two, actually. I'll give Dean the number three. And probably Jake Monahan the number four. He was here earlier. But keep coming back, keep commenting. Maybe we'll have a real Mount Rushmore. Trick question, all seed oils are bad for you. That is correct. That's why I didn't name seed oils. I named non-seed oils. Coconut is technically not a seed. It's a fruit. So it's a fruit oil. Palm oil is a fruit. And avocados are a fruit. Olives are a fruit, believe it or not. And butter is dairy. So it's clearly not a seed oil. In terms of the worst seed oils out there, number one is canola. Number two is rapeseed. Number three is probably sunflower. And number four would be safflower or soy. Soy is actually something really something that's not the best for you either. We'll touch into that later. We will continue to work towards just going into things. Fruits are something too. Not all fruits are the best for you. Some are really high in sugar, despite the fact there's fiber and it is fructose. It's not necessarily the best. So the bottom line is, and I'm really glad we're doing this, we're talking about everything today. And this is just a really exciting opportunity to just show you what we have in store. I do want to get some chefs on here. I do want to get some health people on here and just talk about some cool different things. But the fact that myself, and no, I don't have any advice for that, hence no experience. But in terms of working towards being able to just talk about anything, we have so many cool guests. I mean, I'm gonna have to find my I do have to find my guest list up. It's in my Excel spreadsheet on my main computer. I will have to look at that and start sharing that. But stay tuned. Make sure you're following the Instagram. Make sure you're staying tuned on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and we'll make sure to keep you all updated. Mount Rushmore of overall things in general. It's too vague. Going to need some specifics on that. Number one stock pick for 2022 is something I'll have to get back to you on. I've been researching a lot. I think that electric cars are something to keep an eye on. They're going to really start increasing in demand. As you may know, the state of California recently passed a law outlawing the manufacturing of gas cars by 2035. Doesn't do much. Not a lot are made there now, if any, really. But this is going to start shifting the pressure onto electric vehicle manufacturers to be able to go out and do that. So Tesla, which is close to a stock split, I think that this is a really good industry to go into. Solar panels are something to keep an eye on. They're becoming more convenient. I do want to take a look at the Dow real quick. I did keep an eye on it earlier. The financial sector I wouldn't touch at all. First of all, if you have money to put in the market, treasury bonds, get them now. Rates are going up. I would continue to invest in treasury bonds. Hold on to them for as long as you can. If you have money, my recommendation, treasury bonds. I'll hold on to that one. That's something I'm putting money in as well. Again, the Dow did close today down over 0.5%. Biggest loser today was Salesforce Inc. at a loss of 3%. And some other ones, American Express Finance Company losing 1.76% on the day. Apple and Intel losing 1.37% for Apple and 1.26% for Intel, Microsoft as well. So the safe stocks really aren't doing much. Goldman Sachs is a concern, but electric cars, that's really all I can see right now. Market sell-off is going to continue. We are going to be on here in a few more weeks. I'm sorry, the next few days. The first beginning of the show is always going to be market check. We're going to talk about the markets. answer any business questions, and then bring on our guests. If we have guests that day, if we don't have guests, I'll just go into more stories and break down some more of my experiences. But at the beginning of every show, as you can see down below, with the finance news, got the Dow up right now, the S&P, and then the NASDAQ will come across. There it is. Overall, I do believe that this is the best way to start the show, and we'll continue to dive into it from there. So that's how the show layout is going to be. What is my opinion on how the Fed has been propping up the markets the last 2 years? I'm going to leave you with this to think about, Connor, and you can comment your thoughts on it. Here is what's scary. For the first of all, we're in a recession by definition. By definition only, we are in a recession. We've had back-to-back negative GDP growth quarters, which means the economy has shrunk the last 2 quarters or has sped up at a rate slower than the previous one. So the problem is, for the first time in the history of recessions and eventual depressions, the Fed is raising rates. Every time there's been a depression or a recession, we are trying to encourage people to invest and take money out. So we lower rates. But the problem this time, the reason it's so unique, and I'm very scared of how the markets could become, the very reason that this is unique and is honestly scary, and if you're not paying attention, you better start paying attention. We are in a recession and we are raising rates. For the first time ever. Every single time that we have had a recession, we lower rates. But now we have such bad inflation from the government pumping out money. I mean, a lot of it's legit, the PPP loans. We want to keep businesses alive. But at the same time, we are past a lot of those days. A lot of money is still being produced. Inflation is sky high, and we're still raising rates. So I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but I think that it is going to be something to keep an eye on. And that's something I'm very passionate about. I'm going to continue talking about it, and it's something that we need to keep an eye on. So another question that I see, I'm very excited about this. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do a live trade. Let's say next week, maybe we'll do Monday. We'll do a couple $100 transaction. I will find a stock that I think is suitable. I'm going to execute a live trade on here. We're going to do it through my my portal on my account, and let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's really enjoy this show. Let's take it up a notch, and let's have a really exciting time. Let's see what we got going next. Still scrolling through some messages. Do I think birds are real? Yes, birds are real. So the stock updates are not much. Fed, we got that already. What we've seen, a lot of trades we got. Where the past point of no return, the U.S. dollar will burn. I won't say that. I would say that right now, I'll tell you a few things, actually. Crypto is dead. I don't believe in crypto anymore. I did. I'll tell you why I don't believe in it. It has went down as the stock market has, which means it's a luxury. It's a luxury thing to own crypto. Unless crypto is truly a replaceable currency that can be used, and more importantly, the value of the U.S. dollar is falling. If the value of the dollar is falling, another currency that's staying somewhat stable should increase in value. Bitcoin's lost half its value since this recession started, even before the recession was originally reported. I am not a fan of cryptocurrency. I think it's stupid. I think you can make, just because you can make money on something doesn't mean it's smart. Because in the long run, it won't work. And crypto in the long run doesn't. In the short term, I've made money on crypto. I've used algorithms to go in and out of the markets when it's high and low. Used a couple different platforms, tried to get permission for trading. At the end of the day, you can make money on crypto, but it's not a sustainable option for people. The best way to make money, I have a couple of opinions on this. Number one, stocks, bonds, ETFs. I'll have recommendations for you all in the future. But on top of all of that, you need to have some sort of income. You need passive income. Real estate is another way to make passive income. And equity. Owning equity in private firms with the hopes of them going public is a great way to potentially make money. It's not guaranteed. 1 in 10 startups do not succeed. It's like 9 in 10 startups don't succeed. They fail. They completely sputter out of control. So if you're an angel investor and you have $1 million, you put $100,000 in 10 companies, you need that one company to not only make you a 1x return, it needs to make a 10x return. That's VC talk. That's angel investors. We have a couple of guests coming on local venture capital, as well as some from across the country and some across the world. We're going to be having a really exciting shows breaking down the state of the venture capital world, the state of angel investors. A lot of fun coming up on the show. I'll share some experiences when Gavin Tony comes on. We're going to have some fun experiences, including from New York City. I have, again, World Trade Center and the Empire State Building. I'm not sure you can see the bowl, but this is the bowl from Wall Street. I did buy it when I was up there. So it's been exciting. And I have to be honest with you, this last hour 17 has been above my expectations. This show started with wrong microphone turned on. So for those of you that were here back then, I apologize for that. But since then, everything has been ironed out. We have Jake Henry and Zave Smith on this week. It's going to be really exciting, really fun. And let's see if we have any other comments. Last comments, guys, 520. We're going to cut it. So let me see what else we have. U.S. dollar is backed by nothing but air, and a decentralized currency will never thrive. I agree with that statement. The U.S. dollar is scary because it's backed by law. It's backed by legal tender. If you look at a dollar bill, it's legal tender. It means by law a merchant has to accept that as money. The U.S. dollar will never falter. It can become severely devalued, which is what we're seeing. That's why a lot of things have become expensive because there's so much money out there that it's everywhere. And decentralized currency will never thrive. There is another comment. I'm not going to comment on it here, but in terms of what you do with your personal health, it is something that I take seriously. And each person is subject to their own individual decisions. And it's important to do research on certain things in your health, working out, doing things like that. What does the Zach Starr Show look like in 3 months, 9 months, and 2 years? Great question. Someone was listening early in the show. Within 3 months, my goal is to have just consistently 3 days a week, interviewing some really awesome people. Within 9 months, I do want to interview a CEO or an investor of a top Fortune 500 or public company. And within 2 years, I want to have this picked up by a studio or be able to do something that I can actually not just, if you guys see me looking over here, I'm reading comments, of course, but this is my entire panel. The whole show is run on my laptop. It's just me, have a camera, have a side camera, and that is ultimately me. And within 2 years, ideally, I'd like to have this, as well as my other show, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. Both shows I'd like to have picked up on something that a studio where we can have really good cameras. Not that these cameras aren't great or anything, or the audio isn't great, but it is definitely more of a basic setup. And I do take pride in making the most of the situation that I have. And I'm just really excited to continue with it. Will I be posting content on YouTube? Absolutely. Not just live streams. We're going to have tons of things going on. By the way, TikTok. I've never done a TikTok until like less than a week ago. I think Thursday was my first ever TikTok. Go follow me on TikTok, the Zach Starr Show, Zach L. Starr. Content will be uploaded to TikTok. I'm going to cut segments up and put them on there. It's going to be really exciting and really fun. Anyone who's looking for a job with the Zach Starr Show also should let me know. I'm looking for a few content creators as well as editors and people that run the social media. Again, we are a brand new young talk show, but we have the CEO of some of the top companies in the area coming on in the next few weeks. I will have some more guest lists posted week by week. Make sure you're following us for that. Go buy some apparel on Teespring. It's going to be a really good time. We are going to wrap up here in the next minute. So if there are any final comments, please have at it. But other than that, everybody, it has been an absolute pleasure. It's great. I have really enjoyed it. And I would like you to come back on Wednesday. Stay tuned for what time that show will be. Interview with Jake Henry coming up, and then Zave Smith on Friday. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you all